Hi there. Just come home from dinner with some friends. Played golf today. My wife is playing some piano here. I'm going to go down and watch the Vancouver Canucks game that I've recorded. When I look at this day 89, I have to admit that I feel a sense of relief. Tomorrow will be day 90. And that'll be it. I may have to wait till Tuesday to have my last conversation in Korean. What can I say that I haven't already said in 88 videos? I feel great. I feel I've achieved momentum. One little thing I asked my transcriber to do, I realized that because my podcasts, the Kim Young-ha podcasts, are 30 to 50 minutes long each, that it slows down the system on the iPad. So I've now asked her to break those up into 8 to 10 minute segments. And so we will be re-uploading all those lessons into our library at Link in sort of 8 to 10 minute length segments, which will make it easier. We discussed it in the office the other day, and apparently I'm the only one who will even tackle 30 to 50 minute long lessons. Most people seem to prefer shorter lessons. So that's going to happen. And I think it'll be easier for me with shorter lessons. Things happen faster on our system. There's less calculation going on in the background at Link. One other thing that is kind of interesting, we had a person on our forum at Link today asking about how I dealt with cases in Russian. And she pointed out that it doesn't prevent her from understanding Russian, but she has trouble utilizing the cases. And of course, I explained that in my experience, it's not difficult to understand the principles behind the use of cases. It's difficult to remember all the specific usages and exceptions and which prepositions take which case and all the various specific, verbs that take different cases and so forth. But none of that prevents you from reading and listening and understanding. It's just that when you go to speak, it's difficult to remember all these rules and also remember all the case endings. Very, very difficult. And I simply said, I never really much worried about it because most of my activity was listening and reading, and in listening and reading, I'm gradually getting more and more familiar with the language, and I spend a lot of time with examples, the examples that are generated at Link. I tag for cases, and I realize that the same is true with my Korean. And maybe I'm different from most people. I don't really worry about what I'm unable to do when speaking the language. I don't worry about the mistakes that I make. I don't worry about, and I should say, by the way, that at this stage, I can say categorically that Russian is more difficult than Korean. It is easier to make a mistake in Russian in terms of cases and verbs of motion and the aspects of verbs. It's easier to make a mistake in Russian than in Korean. But in either case, there are usage patterns there that you aren't going to get right until you have a lot of practice. And so that's not only just an issue of cases, it's an issue of which word to use or which phrase is appropriate for this example. And of course in Korean you have the issue of politeness levels, and all of these things just take a lot of getting used to. And so because I'm prepared to put a lot of time into listening and reading and getting used to the language that way, and then I'm prepared to stumble as I start to express myself more. Although I wrote and I had it corrected, so I'm starting to write. And I do speak, but I do so with mistakes, and it doesn't bother me. So just to kind of reinforce what I've said all along, that I'm happy that I have built up enough momentum in my Korean that I can enjoy interesting content as I pursue Kim Young-ha's podcast and possibly other content. I know that I will get more and more used to the language, and as I eventually start to speak it, I'll eventually become more accurate in my usage. And to me, that's just a normal process. And so I don't worry about what I can't do, what I can't produce correctly. It's just not something that bothers me at all. So on that note, I'm going to cut it off here and go off and watch the hockey game. Bye for now.